Okay, so welcome to Unreal Engine 4, and this is my testing map. This is just a placement holder video for when I get some screen recording software, so, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go over a couple of mechanics in these few videos. I'm going to start with the most simple one, which is picking up a lantern. So here we go. Okay, so we're on the road now. We've got a little crosshair drawn to the screen in the middle there, the little X. And I've mapped it to the F key. So when I press F, it should shoot a line trace. Now, what's a line trace? A line trace is basically something that happens in first-person shooters or point-and-click games or anything where you have a camera or an aim. This line isn't generated by me, it's just a debugging thing that's default in the engine. And all you do is press F and it shoots a line that tells you where you were facing, and you can set the distance of that line. And if that line hits something, we end up with a little red rectangle here, and it can hit an object which is tagged. So for example, this lantern is tagged as Lanturn, as you would expect. So if I hit any other object, nothing happens, but if I hit a lantern, boom, the lantern disappears, and my first person character has a light attached to them. And that light turns on when I hit any object is tagged as Lanturn. So let's go into the engine and have a look at how that works. So really what I'm not doing is picking up the lantern, okay? I like to make that clear. If I was to pick up the lantern, I would pick up another lantern and another lantern and another lantern, and I would have like 50 lanterns following me around the level. It would just be crazy. It would be insane. So all I do is I destroy this actor, which if you don't know what an actor is, I'll cover it in another video or some text, which is here. Okay, so basically an empty game object filled with stuff if you use Unity. So that line trace that I talked about comes from my first person character, which is called my CGuy35. Very cool guy. So let's go over some of this scripting. Okay. Pick up commands for all objects based on tags. Okay. So this basically gets my first person camera component, which is this thing here. And it says get the world location of that component and get a forward vector. And add these two things together. So we know where we're looking and we're going outwards. How far do you want to go out? I want to go 1,000 Unreal units. And I want to shoot a line trace. And I want it visible for the whole duration of the line trace. So that's just so I could see it there as a red line. Now this line trace by channel will only fire when an event called pickup object, an event I've custom made here, fires. Okay, so all this here will happen when pickup object here, this event here, it's called an event dispatcher, fires. Okay, so where's this? This is down here. So if I press the F key, I pick up the object. If something is false. If something's true, then I drop the object. Now, this was for an earlier version where I would physically pick up the object. So I had a boolean that was is holding object. Now I'm leaving this in here because I still might use it if I want to inspect something in front of the camera a little closely, like hold it up so it can rotate and then drop it somewhere, or if I need to drop a rock in a river or to get across, or you know, anything like that. If I need to put a block in a hole, or you know, any kind of more physical puzzles. So I'm leaving this as it is. It used to be the case the lantern would go next to the camera, but I had some trouble with that in terms of lag, excuse me. But in any case, what happens is if you are holding an object, it fires this drop object, which fires this. It releases that component, and it sets it back to false, that boolean. You drop the object. And then it goes back to you can pick it up again. But since this is always false now, I'm just going to pick up the object. So this is basically, long story short, every time I press F, it will always pick up an object, for now at least, and fire this line trace. So, you know, you've got your camera, you're going outwards by 1,000 units, shooting a line trace, and, you know, this is just pressing F. You could also accomplish the same thing by just having, you know, a keyboard event here that was just F. So, you know, like any kind of Java or anything like that, is F pressed. You know. Something like that. Now, basically, if I plug that in to here, it will be the same thing. Anyway, so first of all, what we do is we check if the line tracers hit something. You know, check if we've hit something. If that's true, we then check some logic. Now, we can break the hit result into what's overlapping, how long it's overlapped for, what location it's at in the game, all these crazy things. But what we're interested in is the tag, because I mentioned earlier you can tag objects in Unreal 4. So does the tag have Lanturn tag, or does the tag have totem tag? Because I'm got another game mechanic around picking up totems, they're collectible objects. So ignore this one for now. We were interested in Lanturn. So does it have the tag Lanturn? If we go into our blueprint here for our Lanturn, this is the thing that constructs the Lanturn when we drag and drop it in the game. It's got a couple of lights and a mesh here. The most interesting thing about this thing is it has a tag here. See? Active tags, and we've hit one tag on there in an array. It says Lanturn. Okay, so it does have a tag that's Lanturn every time I drag and drop it into the level. So if I just dragged and dropped it in there like that, every Lanturn I drop in has a tag of Lanturn. So it always will. You know, unless I specifically delete it when it's in the level, we delete that tag, but it will. So if it has a tag of Lanturn, we follow that's true. We want to destroy the actor, and the actor is, you follow this blue line, actor is whatever we hit. So if the Lanturn's true, so first we check if we hit something. Okay, yes we did. Then we check, what does it have a tag of Lanturn? Yes it is. Okay, we destroy it. What do we destroy? The target, which was what? It was Lanturn, because that was set to true. Okay, cool. So we destroyed the Lanturn, it's not in the game anymore. This toggle visibility node will now fire. Okay, because we destroyed the actor, it just follows this logic, and it will toggle visibility of what? Point light 67. You're thinking, what the hell is that? What is point line 67? Okay. So this is the event graph for our character, my C guy 35, and he is made up of a camera, capsule collider, a controller, and there's a point light here. Okay, what's this point light? It's point light 67, so this is always here. And you thought, well, why can't I see it like this? Like, why is it not glowing all the time? That's because by default, point light 67 is set to excuse me, 0 visibility. It is, I mean, it's on. I mean, it has an intensity, it has a color, it has a radius. But by default, it is set to invisible. I can't find the exact checkbox here, but I think by default it is set to invisible, which you would expect. So it's set to not visible by default. Okay? So when the player loads into the game, the point light is there, but it's off. Now what happens when you hit a Lanturn is this node fires and has that as a target, so it turns it from off to on. Which means that, yeah, it gives the illusion of picking up a Lanturn and lighting the area. This can kind of be a little bit overwhelming if you're just new to the engine. But obviously, you know, once you get this kind of logic down of a couple of if branches and things like target, the little blue line there, the target is the point light, the reference is the first person character, all those nodes and wires were inside of this guy that I'm playing as now. Once you get your head around that, it's kind of easy to understand. So all that logic's already here, but it won't fire unless I press F. And then the rest won't fire unless I hit something. And then if I hit something, it would check the tag. And if the tag is Lanturn, which it is, because this always has a tag of Lanturn, then I want you to destroy it and turn the light on, which is always there when I dropped in. So bang, there you go. So that's it. I'll do a few more complicated ones after that, but this is basically it for the Lanturn pickup. Thanks.